The world is so full of a number of things, I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings. A number of things. Pig Newton, Frog, and Dora present stories for those who like to wonder and think that it's fun to find out.
Oh, oh, it's all right, Dora. I know it's you.
Well, of course you do, but it's sort of tickly anyway, isn't it?
Yep, it sure is.
This is the puppet we're going to use today and that we're going to make today.
Oh, it's real simple, isn't it?
Isn't that nice and easy?
Yes,
Yeah.
sirree.
Do you know what it is? You know what it is, don't you?
Oh, I sure do.
I think anybody could guess. It's a starfish. And it's made out of a piece of felt, and it's very, very easy.
Yep.
The story is about a starfish, of course. But do you know what was wrong with the starfish in the story? Do you know what was wrong?
She had too many arms.
She was inquisitive.
And who?
Inquisitive.
Inquisitive.
Uh-huh. And while you think about what inquisitive means, I'm going over to the make-do table.
All right.
You come along. Do you know what inquisitive means? Means when you want to find out about everything and when you're... Well, in Sally's case, it meant more than that, as a matter of fact. It meant that she was always poking into things she shouldn't. And this is what got her into some trouble. But that's for later on. Right now, this is how you make Sally. You trace a star onto felt. And if you haven't got felt, use heavy material. And if you haven't got either felt or heavy material, try some heavy paper. I don't really know whether heavy paper will do or not, but you could try it. And then you just cut out where you have traced, being very careful to stay on the lines.
Yep.
And there's quite a bit to cut, Big Newton.
Yes, there sure is, Dora.
And you have to decide, too, to be careful of the points of the scissors, that you don't poke them into you.
Yep, that could be sort of troublesome, don't you think?
It sure could. But we're getting it cut out, Big Newton.
Oh,
See?
that's fine, yeah.
Uh-huh. There it is. And that's not very hard at all, is it? Just straight lines to cut. You may want to cut right into the points and right out again, but it's easier for me if I keep turning it around and do it like this.
Hey, Dora.
Uh-huh.
What's inquisitive?
Well, we were talking about that just a minute ago, Fig Newton, and it means when you want to find out about things all the time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in Sally's case, I think Sally was, well, she was inquisitive in a sort of a bad way because she was always poking into everything.
Oh, she was prying, I guess.
Uh-huh. Well, I don't know whether you say it was prying, but she really poked into a lot of things that were none of her business and that she really should have known better.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Well, here, I have her cut out now, and it's time to cut the little places where your fingers go, these places. And you first of all put your hand down on the starfish like this, because you have to see how big your starfish has to be. It has to fit your hand. You make a mark here, and a mark there, and a mark here. And you see that these two marks go this way, lying down sort of against the point. This one goes that way.
Hey, Dora, how do you like a starfish on a head?
Fig Newton, Frog, that is not the way you wear Sally.
Oh.
Don't be silly.
Well, it looked kind of good to me.
Now, I've got to get on with it, Fig Newton, or I won't get Sally cut out in time.
All right.
Now, I'm watching carefully for the points of the fingers, because my own finger is behind there. Points of scissors, rather.
Yeah.
Now, you get all these slots cut. You cut two, don't forget, because your finger has to go in and come out again.
On the other side, yeah.
Uh-huh. And one more over here.
Hey, you're real good at that, Dora.
Well, it's coming along, isn't it?
Yes, sirree.
Now, I think that's big enough, and we'll see if it fits. This is for this finger,
Uh-huh.
and that's for that finger,
Uh-huh.
and this is for that finger. And it does sort of fit. I got that one a little bit too far down, but that is really quite a good fit, as you can see when I lift her up.
Oh, she looks fine.
And would you like to see her walk?
Oh, yep.
Would you like to see her walk now? Just ready?
Yep.
Here she comes, and here she comes, and here she comes, and...
Woo! Hey!
Want to see her walk some more?
Well.
Okay, let's walk her some more. Once more, Big Newton. Here she comes. Woo!
Oh, boy.
She tickles, doesn't
Yep,
she?
she tickles.
Well, that's all there is to making Sally Starfish. You keep those two fingers tight down like that. Now, suppose you take her along to the Make-Do Theater,
All right.
because we have a fish to make. Incidentally, make two of Sally, because there's Sally and there's somebody else. So make two like that. And then take a piece of paper like this and fold it over the long way like that. And then cut it up in a sort of a circle like this, only you have it come down before you reach the end of the paper, and then cut up again. And you know what will happen, don't you? When you open the end of it, you've got a fish. And if you want to make his tail sort of a little bit fancy, you can cut in and out like that. And he really has a very fancy tail. Now, he's a happy fish, so we're going to cut him out and make him smile. And you just cut it in like that, and like that, and there's his mouth. You don't have to make him smiling if you don't want to. He can be a frowning fish if you want, but I think it's sort of fun to have him smile. Now, we want to put an eye on him, and I'm just going to put it in with black crayon like this. If you want, you can put it in with paint or maybe glue some more paper on or whatever you want to do. And then you make a little mark here to cut with the scissors. And you cut it. It's not to be too big a hole. In fact, it's not to be a hole at all. It's just to be a little slit like that. And into the slit, you have a piece of paper. You see, it's like a triangle, just like a triangle, only it has the same sort of a bottom like the tail. And you stick the point of the triangle right in through the slit, just like that. And over here, you put some glue. I won't have time to put glue, so I'm just going to tape that down like that. And you can see now that when you bend that out like that, you have a fish that has a fin. Now, to make him hold him up, you can't sort of hold him up like this if he's a puppet, can you? So you put him on a rod. I have a slim piece of wood called a dowel here. But if you can't get a dowel, use balloon stick or a soda straw. Anything will do that just isn't your hand and that you can hold him up on. You'll see what I mean. When I hold him up now, there he is, and he's all ready to swim. Now, how about it, Big Newton? Are you ready, too?
Oh, yep, I'm ready, Dora.
Well, then let's go over to the Make-Do Theater and hear the story of silly Sally Starfish, who was really too inquisitive for her own good. She wasn't, I mean, when I say she was inquisitive, I mustn't sort of overlook the fact that Sally was also very clever. And she was most clever of all at playing the piano. She really could play the piano very well. Her music teacher just used to love teaching Sally to play the piano because she could play with 3 hands. Look at her, playing and playing, and her teacher beating time like mad. Oh, they just used to have wonderful lessons. Well, one day when Sally was playing, her teacher poked her. That's the only way she could get her to stop playing, because Sally was making far too much noise for anyone to talk. And then the teacher said, "Sally, you play so well that next week I want you to play the Grand March at the graduation." Sally was so thrilled that she went back to the piano and she started practicing even harder than ever. But she practiced. While she was practicing, she was thinking of how excited her mother would be. She was just dying to go home and tell her mother all about playing the piano at graduation. Well, you can imagine that her mother, oh, she was just thrilled to death. Well, you know, anybody's mother would be if her daughter came home and said, "Well, I've been picked out of everybody to play the piano at graduation, the Grand March." Well, Sally's mother, she just said, "Sally, we're so pleased. Oh, we're so proud of you, Sally." But then she had an idea, and she said, "Now, look, Sally, just make sure that between now and graduation, you don't get into any trouble at all, being too inquisitive and poking into things." Well, Sally tried really hard, and it was fine right up until the day she was to go to the concert, the graduation concert. Then, as she left the house, her mother said, "Now remember, Sally, remember, don't go poking into anything." And Sally said she wouldn't, and she left for the school. But as she was on her way to the school, she passed the most fascinating look of seaweed all around the rocks. Look, you can see her. There she goes. And she thought, oh, I'll just have to see if there's anything under this. And she knew she shouldn't, and a fish swam by and said, "Oh, Sally, Sally, you shouldn't go poking into that. Sally, you know perfectly well that you're playing at the graduation and you need all your hands. Now, don't go poking into that." But Sally didn't stop. She just poked under that rock as hard as ever she could until all of a sudden, wow, she jumped back. And do you know what? She had lost a finger. You just look. She'd lost a finger. In fact, she lost a whole arm. Well, she was very, very sorry. And she went on to the graduation. But it wasn't any use at all, because she now only had 2 hands, and to play the Grand March she needed 3. So her piano teacher had to play the Grand March in her stead, and it was a whole year before Sally grew her arms long enough to play the Grand March at the graduation.
Well,
And that's
Dora,
the end of the story.
yeah, you know what?
What?
Now I know what happens when you're too inquisitive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that I told one thing, though, that I should have.
What was that?
What happens when a starfish has an arm or a leg? I think it's an arm cut off.
Oh, I know what happens.
What happens?
It grows back in.
Did you know that? Did you know that if a starfish has an arm taken off like that, it takes almost a year for it to grow back in, but it does grow back.
Well,
so
that's handy.
if you're ever down at the sea and see a starfish that has sort of one short arm, you know what's happened, don't you?
Yes, sirree. He lost it, and he's
It's
going to
lost
grow
and
it back.
It's growing back in. Well, now, Fig Newton,
Yep.
we only have a couple of books today. The Wonder World of the Seashore, that's one of them.
That tells about starfishes. It sure does.
Yeah. And the other one has no stories of starfish in it.
Oh, well, that's
But-
a nice book.
Yeah, it's about things down at the sea, and it's called The Octopus. And I sort of brought it along because even if it doesn't sort of belong in the starfish, in starfish stories, it's such a good book, and it's one about things down at the sea.
Well, the starfishes and the octopuses, they're all in the sea together.
Uh-huh.
Sure.
The octopus certainly is another thing that has a lot of arms and legs, isn't it?
Yep.
So, Fig Newton,
Yep, Dora.
not only have we finished the story, we've come to the time when it's time to,
Oh, yeah, look for another story.
for next time.
Yep.
This is National Educational Television.